This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome aboard. We've got some Impala to start, but this time it's not rainy, which is lovely. So grab all your safari things and welcome aboard for your live safari through the African bush. As you all can probably tell, I'm a little bit excited, and that's because it's not raining, and we're starting with some Impala this afternoon as we did this morning, but at least this afternoon it's not pouring down and I'm dry. Isn't that nice and fortunate? I think so. These Impala look like they're fairly happy that the weather has settled, at least for now, although the clouds are still heavy and grey. Hi everyone, it's me, Trishana. I've got Theo on camera. There's that thumb. We're very excited to be out and about. And like I said, there could be more rain, but we're hoping that it holds up. It's about 24 degrees Celsius, 76 degrees Fahrenheit. Very pleasant. And I love the green that pops after the rain. Remember, this is your safari, so please do ask us questions, communicate with us, use that hashtag WildEarth or at FC on the YouTube chat stream, or of course you can pop over to our website and use our question box. Ask us anything you like. We can have some really nice chats. We can think about some memories, have a bit of a bumble. It's a quiet afternoon. And a quiet afternoon, I like to just drive around and see what's out there. No established sightings or anything like that. Potential for Tlalamba. But on overcast days like this, I like to go to the den, the hyena den. Chewing away. Woodpeckers. You'd like to know what my favorite animal is. I wish I could answer that question, but I can't. I went through stages of different favorite animals, but now I don't have a favorite. I would have honey badgers. That used to be one of my favorites, especially when I started. It was just honey badgers, and I love honey badgers. But now I love everything. I definitely can't choose. Chameleons on the top of the list. But the more time you spend in here, in the bush and outdoors, you realize every little thing has a special place. And without those things in place, the ecosystem just doesn't function the way that we know it to be. Just removing one of those little critters changes so much. I love them all is the short answer there. Woodpeckers, including woodpeckers, by the way. I love woodpeckers. This summer, I'm going to hope to see all of the woodpeckers in one drive. That would be ideal. Theo is showing us a tail of a bird there, but I didn't catch it. Anyway, we're going to head down to the den, and hopefully it'll be active.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Tswalu Kalahari Reserve. We are here with Sociable Weaver nursery, that is the white-browed spotted weaver. My name is Richard Satere, and that is Dev behind the camera. And we're talking about what you see here. That's the white-browed spotted weaver nest. And then you can see there's quite several of them there. And then it's quite an interesting about these groups of bird. What they do, you found in this in this nest, that will be almost like, let's say, about 9 individuals in this nest, and then and quite very interesting is that there will be a dominant male and a dominant female, which are the one that will breed, and then the rest then just help us to build a nest and look after the babies and do everything like that. And the other thing you can see, they are weavers, but they do weave, but it's quite not like other weavers where they will be built very neat they will build neat nest, but very messy. And other thing is that the nest will be open on both sides, which is some kind of a decoy. I mean, like if the snake goes in, falls the other side. And I would say the other thing is an escape route for the individual. If the snake gets into the nest, they can get away with another door. I mean, like everybody knows, if you've got a house, you need a house with an escape in case of fire or in case of any emergency escape. And it's quite very interesting with this white-browed sparrow weaver nest. And then the tree that we see it's the tree where the nests are. It's called the camel thorn, and then which the scientific name, which is called the Acacia areoloba, which means it's almost, you can hear what I'm saying, it's an earlobe. That's a fascinating situation that we have here. It's very interesting about this bird and this tree.
Well, we've also got a fascinating situation here. There was a whole herd of elephants that were coming down to this waterhole, and as soon as they saw all these bulls in the water, well, the bulls have also left now, there's just the two, but as soon as they saw these bulls, they decided that this was not the place to be, and they ran off in a terrible huff. But it's a nice cool day, it's nice and cloudy, the wind is blowing, the cicadas are singing. Welcome everyone, my name is Mike, behind the camera is BK, and you've joined us at Eco Training's Pridelands Conservancy. We were once again sitting at Antelope Dam because it is the place to be when you're on Pridelands. It's absolutely spectacular, and as you can see, it is a nice cloudy day, and there's lots of elephants around coming to investigate the water, have a bit of a swim, and then head on up to feed. Today there's no rush at all. Why waste energy? Why not just enjoy? You know, it's always one of those days. It's always like that on a cold day. You don't really feel like moving quickly. There's no reason to rush about. Oh, my head's in the way there. So yeah, we're just enjoying it. You know, it's just such a wonderful place right now. We got new students that just arrived yesterday, and they were greeted to a scene just like this, and they were absolutely gobsmacked. They couldn't believe that elephants would be at this waterhole right next to a camp. You know, it was absolutely spectacular. So it's really nice to see, and the elephants have become so used to it as well that they pay us no attention at all, which is what you want. When you're in the bush, you want the animals to go about doing their business without being disturbed by us at all.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Masai Mara of Kenya. We are watching elephants just grazing slowly. My name is Tim, and behind camera we have Big James. It's nice weather. We're expecting some rains, but hope it will not come our side, because our mission today is to go see those zebras that we are watching this morning, hoping that it will cross the river. So these elephants are slowly grazing, heading back to where they get normally. So in the afternoon, they will always head towards the escarpment. Sometimes we can hear them around camp, because our camp is just on the top of the Ololo escarpment. It's a nice weather, about 23 degrees Celsius here, about 73 degrees Fahrenheit. So a time to graze slowly, because you can see the small calf there. So they need some energy, need to at least eat. And the long distance sometimes can make them tired. So they always come here and relax a little bit before they carry on. Looks like they just came from a mud wallow. You can see their back, they're very wet. They've been plastered with mud. We are so happy this year because we have lots of calves, and that's a good sign that our elephant population are increasing, and that's a good sign. In areas where we experience droughts, we have always elephant while human conflict, but good thing here we have good security, and the reserve and the conservancies are well managed. So these elephants are happy here. So just going to keep an eye on these elephants as we take you over to another live location.
Oh, I'm not sure what's going on there, but I wonder if there's another sighting that is around the corner. But our giraffe there just got a little spooked by the cars driving around, but that's okay. I'm a little bit, not so, but just a little bit jealous of Mike and Tim all talking about the elephants. I'm still hoping to see some myself, and it's been too long since I've seen a nice big herd. But hey, I have the tallest mammal on earth, at least. I can't complain about a giraffe. So I thought that the other vehicle they might be looking for, or might have had Tlalamba, because she was seen moving this way this morning. But apparently not. Look at that tail. Oh, it looks like it's got a few grey hairs. Almost. It does, right? I'm not seeing things. I've got my binoculars. I myself have found myself with a few grey hairs, which I actually quite like. I think the salt and pepper look really, really works for this bull. I'm not sure if he agrees with me. I think that the animals just look that much prettier in the lushness and the greenness of the bush. Don't you think so? I think this might be a case of if you hide your face, you think your whole body is hidden. So if I reposition at this point, I'll probably scare him, and I don't want to. I might be able to roll, though, and see if that makes a difference. But with our rain roof on, it can be a little bit difficult. I can roll. Let's see if we get one last look at your face. No. No, completely hidden. All right, well, we're going to head off to the den, rolling, of course, and see if there's any action there.
Well, Tswalu does not need to worry. I'm sure she'll find an elephant at some point. I hear they often try to visit hyena dens as well. I've actually seen it a couple times before. But these elephants aren't interested in that. These elephants are just interested in staying out of the wind, I believe. I'm sure you can hear the wind blowing past us. It's a very windy day. There's a cold front that moved over last night. We were in the middle of having a braai, or in South Africa, a barbecue. And yeah, this terrible wind came through and started blowing all these clouds over, which brought blessed relief from the heat and also brings a lot of interesting behavior. I wanted to see how the predators will react to this kind of cloudy and windy conditions. It makes for good hunting. And it also makes for difficulties for animals with big ears, like elephants, because of course the wind blows and they can't hear as easily, and that's one of their main senses, their sense of hearing. They've got these massive ears that help them to point. Sorry, if I could please get the question again. I didn't quite hear. Rosalind, I know you had a very interesting question, but I didn't quite catch the question. It was about elephants, I know that much. That much I know for certain. Can elephants swim? Oh, okay. Rosalind, elephants, I think they can swim. I think most animals can swim in a rudimentary sense. They probably rarely find themselves in water deep enough to really have to swim, but I think it's Gabon in West Africa where there are elephants that find themselves on the beach. And then from there, they actually move into the surf. And there's been reports or records of elephants actually being found on little islands just off the coast, which would need to swim to get there. So I think it is possible. I mean, they'll do something like, what we call a doggy paddle, where they just sort of gently kick their legs backwards and forwards in a circular motion and gently pull themselves, to more forward, I guess. But it won't be very graceful, I don't think. Then again, I've never seen it. It could be just like a hippo. Out of water it looks kind of ungainly, but in water it's graceful as a ballerina, tiptoeing and dancing its way across the water. Certainly graceful the way they move their trunks. Look at we talked about the trunks the other day and how they've got between 40 and 50,000 individual muscles, and it makes them so serpentine they can really move them. Well, that one's being very graceful, sticking his bum out the water. But yes, I think they can probably swim in a rudimentary sense. They won't be doing butterfly or front crawl. They'll be doing a type of a doggy paddle. We saw the buffaloes, so you see where the elephants are right now. I think they're sort of standing and then they go down to their knees like what this one is doing now, and then puts its head under. So it's deep enough that the elephants, even when they stand, the water goes right up to their backs like that. So we saw the buffalo herd was rushing across, and I think a number of the look at this one is just floating upside down. A number of the buffaloes, I think, got pushed into the deep water, and we actually saw them sort of paddling their way across to just stay away from the elephants a little bit and to try and keep up with the rest of the herd. So most animals, if they find themselves in a situation that's tricky, will be able to swim. But it's probably quite energy consuming. It's not easy, I think, so they wouldn't be able to keep it up for very long. Luckily, they've got that long trunk, which acts as a snorkel, and a very heavy body, so they can probably wade across most waters. I mean, I think an elephant probably stands a little over 3 meters tall, maybe almost, no, 4 meters would be too much. I think just over 3 meters tall. And so with the trunk lifted all the way up, it's probably going to reach 4 or 5 meters. It's That's actually good. I should actually look that up. How tall is an elephant? How tall can an elephant reach? I know the biggest elephant bulls can reach about as tall as a giraffe, a male giraffe, maybe even a little bit taller. Gerard, absolutely they do. An elephant's trunk is basically a long, extended nasal passage. So they breathe in through their nose, or they can breathe in through their nose, and they definitely pick up a lot of scent. You'll see elephants often, especially if you're on a bushwalk or even driving past at a distance and the wind is blowing gently towards them. You'll see them not only prick their heads up and perk up their ears, but they'll also angle their nose or the end of the trunk straight towards wherever the wind is blowing from to try and get the scent on the wind. And they also do another thing with their trunk, which is a way to gather even more information. So you can see these very cute trunks, the tips of them. They actually press, oh no, they've gone under the water, but they press the tip of the trunk, which has got those two little finger-like projections. They flatten them out onto the ground wherever something has urinated, usually female elephants. And they actually then pick that up now that it's coated itself with the urine of the female, and they put it in their mouth in order to sort of understand the reproductive cycle of the female. Is she in estrus? Is she ready for mating? You know, all that kind of stuff. And maybe even if there's a male elephant, how, you know, much testosterone he's got. Is he in must? Is he not in must? That kind of stuff. So they don't do a phlegm grimace like other antelope, for example, and lions and other predators do, where they curl up their top lip. But you will see them put the trunk in the mouth, and you know that they're using the same organ to gather information. They certainly can smell, and I'm sure they've got an excellent sense of smell. In fact, I'm certain that they've got an excellent sense of smell. I love it when they do this. It's so weird. Oh. Letting out a little gas there. He's going to start sinking soon. It's just, that's all. That's why he keeps floating. He's just got a little bit of gas. And when you eat vegetables all day, it's bound to happen. Well done, BK. It was excellent. Elephants really are the most comical of animals once they're in the water. Out of the water, big elephants like this are really stately and graceful, and I don't know what the word is, majestic, I suppose. You watch them. As soon as they get in the water, they just turn into kids. They turn into 5-year-olds. Porpoising and putting their bums in the air and splashing about and falling onto their sides. It's amazing to watch such an incredible animal just turn into a big kid.
Good afternoon, and welcome to our viewers to a overcast, windy and much cooler andBeyond Ngala, where we are looking at a water or Nile monitor this afternoon. Now myself, I'm Yapi, and behind the camera we have Sebastian. And this afternoon we thought we'd set out, drive the bank of the river, and maybe look if we can find tracks of a pride of lions that we know have been moving in this area this morning. But we haven't had any luck yet. So we checking all the usual spots, watering holes within this particular area where they might have come and have a drink during the day, especially after the rains this morning. This morning was a little bit rainy, and I think that's exactly why this monitor has decided to bask up on that log. And what a perfect spot. And he's not moved 1 inch since we got here. Oh, there. His head actually just turned a little bit. And when it's a cool day like this, you can see his paws are stretched out. He's trying to maximize his body size, and that's to catch whatever sunlight it can. Just have a look at that very powerful muscular tail. It's got quite a thin ridge right at the top of the tail, which almost acts like a rudder. And this lizard is an extremely good swimmer. And you can see the very long claws for grip. But I think we'll stay here, have a look and see what he does.
Well, from Yapi's reptile to this very poor leopard tortoise that has been harassed by the hyena cubs. It is being harassed, and it looks like it's still alive. They're just having a go at it. Unfortunately, Hata has just moved off, which is very unfortunate. So we are going to have to move off too. She's still moving towards the road, but she's behind some bushes now and I can't see her. So what I will do is I'll reverse and I'll go out to kind of the 2-track that leads here and see if she's settled down there. If she's settled down here, then settle down there. Then we can come back to the den and spend some time with them. This is really interesting. Oh no, leave it alone. Let's see if it pops out. No. Okay. Alright, let's go out and see where Heart settled down. Hopefully she did. If she did, we'll stay here. If not, we've got to keep on bumbling.
Jumbo, welcome everyone to my side of the world. And how sweet if Trishala will find those hyena cubbies. They're usually very sweet when they're young. Good luck, Trish. Here I am with a group of elephants. Jumbo, my name is Isaac, and on camera I have Bungay. Our mission is to find Jasiri. If we don't find him, we'll go and try and find those lion cubs we saw this morning. But it's all beautiful where we are. What do we have here? Look at this little guy. He's called a pintail whydahs. And this is a breeding male. Such a rare find. Thank you very much. Bungay, pintail whydahs. It's a polygamous bird. Usually he's got maybe 3 to 4 females, and usually very bullish and very aggressive towards other birds, and that is his breeding plumage. How beautiful is that? It's called a pin-tailed whydahs. I'm going to try and find him in my book, and then I can show you how he looks when he's not breeding. It's actually quite a very big contrast between when he's breeding and when he's not. Maybe we'll show you the elephants as we try and find this beautiful little one. Yeah, the book contains about 1,340 birds, and sometimes I think I can find it very quickly without looking at the index, and it takes 1,000 years. Hope I can find it much quicker as you enjoy my elephants there. Are you here? Can I find you? Whydahs. Jumbo, are elephants afraid of mice? I think that is no, it's a myth, and because the people continue talking about elephants fearing mice, it is always transferred. Like right now, I'm talking, somebody else will go and ask somebody else the same question, and so it's going to continue being asked, but it's not true. And also you'd ask yourself, where would the mice and the elephant meet? Where will they meet? That is always my biggest question. And will actually the elephant notice the mice? So it's a very interesting question, but it is not true. And I've never seen an elephant run away from a mouse because I've never seen them, meet. So it is not true. Those elephants there you see are all, I'll stick with the elephants for the now. I'll look for the bird after, I'm done with the elephants. But it is not true. I've lived all my life here in the Masai Mara and other parts of wilderness. I've never seen an elephant run away from a mouse. And those are stories that are carried on from generation and generation, and they should be stopped. Well, here I have a bunch of Bachelor bulls. So look at them. If you look at their forehead, they're all rounded, and it's a mix of very old bulls, young ones, quite young, almost maybe around 7-8 years, but they're all bulls. They have started the association, we call it a Bachelor group. Sometimes there is bullying by the big bulls trying to chase away the younger ones, but looks like everybody is keeping a good social distance here, and there is respect. Yeah, all of them are bulls. They're all happy grazing, and when you see them like this, there's always a sign that there is a female coming into estrus nearby, and she has sent a message using their low frequencies to say, I need a mate, and that's why they are gathered like this. Well, I'll stay here. I'll see you in a bit.
Welcome back to the other side of the Mara, from the elephants now to a lioness who's on the other side of the river. Not quite sure whether she crossed over or not, but she's lying down looking in the opposite direction of where we are. These two big males lying just next to the bank. There's some tourists who've come to enjoy a sighting, so that's one big male there. So the lioness is actually staring at the big male, and then, thank you, Big Jim, he's panning. There's another one there, just crouched on the elephant grass there. So the only thing now separating these lions is the river. You can see the big rocks there and the hippos. So these lions, these two big males, they always cross the river to come to this side of the Mara Triangle. So where that lion is, she is at the Masai Mara Game Reserve. So what bisects the two is the river. So we are actually on the Mara Conservancy where these two big males are. So those males are from the Bila Shaka Coalition. They always crisscross this river coming to conquer these territories and pride area. A few weeks ago, probably a week ago, I saw one of the big male mating with a lioness from one of the prides. So I'm going to stick around here and watch what they're going to do.
Yeah, my elephants here looks like they're very happy, spread out. Definitely those two are young bulls checking one another for strength, for sharpening those fighting skills, and also finding a hierarchy. When I say that, I mean, these kind of play fights help avoid fights in the future, because mating rights are usually found when there is an understanding of who's the toughest, who's the biggest, because the larger you are, the biggest you are, the tougher you are, then the higher the chances you have for mating. Matriarchs tend to decide who is big enough, to mate with who. That is a beautiful female with beautiful tusks. Look at that. Yeah, we rarely get to see that kind of tusks right now. They are eating wire grass. It's very coarse, but still nutritious. Right now, it's quite soft because, of all the water that we have received. And everybody's just having fun with this grass that is everywhere. There are so many around here. I cannot, count them. There are so many. They're spread out everywhere, and more are coming from behind. And look at that. Yeah, we have a few raindrops coming. It's not heavy. I hope it won't interfere with our beautiful game drive. Sharon, can elephants drink from their mouth without the trunk? I've never seen one do so, Sharon. And it has to learn that, I think, from a very early age. And because it is not a behavior they grow up or they're born with, they don't drink directly with their mouth, and I don't think they can drink water directly out in the wild, directly with their mouth, no. But in captivity, I've seen where people hold bottles for them and they use the trunk directly to the mouth, which means the drink went straight to the mouth. So it didn't pass through the trunk. But out here, no, they cannot. I stand to be corrected by my fellow guides because it is a very tricky question. But naturally, they will never drink straight to the mouth. They use the trunk. The trunk is a very useful tool for them. It is a hand, it is the fingers, it is the snorkel when they swim, it is the nose, it's the tongue, it's very many things. It's the weapon. So the trunk is a very useful part of an elephant. And I haven't actually read where it says exactly how many muscles it contains, but they say from about 20 to 60,000 muscles. It's always changing, the amount of muscles. And when you imagine those muscles, I think it's able to pick up a peanut from the ground, because in front of the trunk, it's got some prehensile part that actually looks like fingers, and I think those can pick a peanut. And it's very, very spongy and like jelly-ish if you touch it. Sorry, but I have to tell you, I've touched some dead ones, and it is jelly-ish. It moves very freaky because of all those muscles. Very hard to cut through, so you can imagine the amount of muscles. Those two there are still play fighting, and it's a behavior you find with teenagers at the age of around 10 or to around 15. They play a lot. After that, they are quite mature, and they relax. They behave like fully grown bulls. At that age, actually, they're immune to very many things. Jessica, Jambo, is it one family of elephants we see here? Definitely not. Families range from around 1 to around 13, the most 15 over here. But related sisters come together every couple of months, or when there's a good harvest, like right now, there is plenty of grass. They know where to be, and sometimes they gather up, bring their families, and that's why we see like easy over here. I have about 70, so it's that time of the year when they send a message and they gather up to feed on this plenty of grass that's available everywhere. So it's not one family. I would say maybe about 4 families. it's rare to come across a family of more than 15. From my experience, I've always seen about 8 to 13, 8 to 12. It's very common. It's just a beautiful sight that I have here. Elephants galore everywhere. And there's a big bull coming from behind here. You can tell that he's been using his tusks to dig for soils. When it rains, all the mud that they have applied on their skin get washed off. So every time they find some water, they'll dig the soils and mix it up with the water, and so they can add a new layer onto their skins. Well, I'm staying here because it's such a beautiful spot. Let's take you to another live location.
So from the elephants back to a lioness who's still lying on the riverbank. You can see how very well trimmed and short that grass is from hippos grazing over there. She's a little bit panting hard because she's hot. The lions are actually in the grass, and it seems like those big males are accompanied by other lions. Oh, there's 2 big males just sitting next to each other, and then the third one is actually on the other side. Thank you, Big James. So there's 2 now there, and the other one that we saw separately. So these are from the Bila Shaka coalition. At the moment, because of the grass, I can't identify who is who, but they're the ones that have been roaming around this area for quite some time. He's up now. That looks like a door. Very nice. Reggie, the reason why the females initiate the kill is because when they're out stalking, when they're out hunting, the females don't have the mane. So sometimes that big mane can deter away predators. So to do the stalking, yesterday, if you read you were watching the sunset safari, we saw a lioness stalking some topi. And if those topi could have seen a mane, or maybe it was a big male lion stalking them and be able to see the mane, they'll definitely run away. So that is the reason why they always don't go out on a hunt. They are heavy, they are a bit slower, but they'll always join the lionesses when it comes to bringing down big prey like, let's say, hippo. Oh, there's a big fight there. Or maybe sparring. So if it's bringing down big prey like hippo, buffalo, giraffe, the males will always assist the lionesses. So the reason being, mane is exposed sometimes, and that can be seen by prey. So lionesses are much better because they don't have mane, they're a little bit lighter, so at least they can outrun prey for a long distance. You can see hippo there enjoying this water because it's raining upstream, so the water is actually flowing fresh. All the dung that was here in this place is being washed away. So at least they're happy. By the look of it, I think that lioness belongs to the Bila Shaka area. So she's not afraid of those big male lions there, because we find that sometimes when the big males walk into a pride area or walk into a territory, the lionesses sometimes get a little bit disturbed, get a little bit stressed out. But seems these are their pride members. She's happy there, only that they're on the other side of the river. And at least there's no place to cross from this point. Just waiting to see what these big males will do as we watch the other one resting. Let me take you over to another live location.
Isn't it just wonderful when you bumble around and then all of a sudden, this, it's Shidulu? How great is that? Because we've been wanting to, or at least I've been wanting to see Shidulu. First we thought it might be Tlalamba, but it is in fact a Shidulu. So we obviously had to leave the den, hard hand left. And now he has this girl not too far from camp. I know that you're all wondering what I am. Could she start chuffing? Could there be a second cub? Oh, what a specimen. She's such a gorgeous, gorgeous leopardess. You'll be able to hear all the vehicles now descending on the site. I'm just going to pull up my binos, have a look if she's got any suckle marks. That would be good. I'm afraid, as far as I can see, there aren't any, which is obviously unfortunate, but that is just the way it is, at least for now. Okay, well, she is moving. She's been in the tree. I love when it's nice and quiet. Well, I mean, this is fairly quiet, not like totally quiet, but fairly quiet. There's not 5 different cars trying to enter the sighting and standbys, etc. So everything's very nice and chilled. I hope you guys are feeling nice and chilled too. I certainly am. What about you, Theo? I think he said yes. Feels like one of those days when it's not just raining water, but raining sightings. Sky, you want to know exactly what I do. You'd like to know if she's still got suckle marks. Just trying to position her so that every... Good, Theo? Okay. I've been looking for suckle marks, and I pulled up my binos there to have a look, and I must say that I didn't see any, which is unfortunate, but it was also not the best view. Look at her. Oh, what Oh, yes. Okay, let's use this moment of quiet to get around. You'll find that leopardesses will soar with more frequency. Shorter length, but with more frequency. So if she does it again, which she may be likely to, we want to see it. Block out all those people. There we go. Oh, look at this gorgeous girl. If you want some... If you come to Africa, you'll be coming on a vehicle with guides and they'll have trackers and stuff. But for me, each and every time I don't bring my camera, that's the day hyenas are playing with tortoises and Shidulu is playing on a beautiful, beautiful fallen down marula. I think she's gonna go again. Oh. Isn't this just beautiful? So, so beautiful. Just waiting for the vehicle beside me to try not to hit me. And then we'll... There we go. She is looking very much at all the excitement going around. Why is everyone moving? This is a great view. Sometimes I feel like the animal when that happens, when people are moving around and get a bit of view. I feel like, oh, where do I look? Oh, perfect. So perfect. Keith, you say she looks annoyed? She has that kind of face, Keith. Or shall we say, resting, annoyed face. By far the happiest face, if you can even say that, for a leopard that we see here, is Tlalamba's. She hardly ever looks annoyed. But she doesn't have a very relaxed face. Sometimes she looks, most of the time, in fact, she looks annoyed. Trying to keep the tones low. I don't want to miss any of that sawing. Okay. Is that when you want to look at the ID spots on her face? So we're looking... This is an important thing for you to watch and listen to before we answer your question. I'm sure lots of you have a question that is that way inclined. And look at the way her intention or her tension changed. Because essentially that's a distress call. Anyway, back to the ID spots. So for Shidulu, we're looking for a 5-5. So if you look at this, come on, look at this way, Shidulu. You can do it. Okay, so see above that whisker line, you can see there's 3 very prominent dark spots, or dark lines that are actually spots connected where the whiskers come out of. Now above that, you'll count 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 that's slightly closer to her nose. On the other side, we do the same thing, and that's a spot, the spot pattern of a leopard. That's one of the first things you'll look for. But as you get used to them, you'll find that looking at their faces and other markings on their bodies, their ears, stuff like that, and actually their general shape and size, you'll be able to pick out which leopard it is. You can see she's quite wet. She's warming up her throat, doesn't it? That is interesting. It looks like she's warming up her throat. I can't say I've noticed that Adam's apple-y movement before. Oh, it does correspond to the panting, so maybe. Never noticed it, though. Anyway, we're going to stick around with her, of course. Hopefully she'll soar again for us, preferably when you're with me.
Well done, Trish, finding a leopard. Well, I'm still here with my elephants, and there is all sorts of interactions going on. There is that little one who's very feisty and has been bashing his cousin's head quite a lot. And I think he's trying to assert his dominance to his cousin, but now he's, I think, separated completely. Well, I want to finish up with my bird that we had seen earlier. This is the pin-tailed whydah. and that is the breeding male. It's called the breeding male, and the transition before it gets to that is the stage. And the non-breeding male is this one here. That is how it looks. This bird, it belongs to a group of what we call brood breeders or parasitic breeders. They are birds, somehow I would call them, they are lazy. They never bring up the young ones. They normally find a host. Something just happened there. I don't know what it is. Something spooked those elephants, and all the young ones have been put in the middle. I don't know exactly what happened, but a young one could have gotten scared and communicated that it's not okay, and so everybody was trying to reassure the little guy. Okay, to my bird again. The brood breeders are a group of birds that actually never take care of their young. What happens is they find a host, and some of the hosts, they actually treat them really badly because they'll find a nest. Sometimes they lay an egg there and actually throw away the host egg and lay their own eggs. But with the pintail whydah, the host stays with her eggs, but also sits on the pintail's whydah eggs, and they hatch, and it takes care of its young plus the pintail whydah's eggs. So the pintail whydah only brings this colorful plumage to breed, and after breeding, the female finds the host nest, and usually it is a waxbill or a purple grenadier. They're almost the same size, but coloration is very different. Surprisingly, the host never notices the color, but brings up the young one. Other hosts usually kill their host's young or the egg, but the pintail whydah is, just takes care, doesn't kill the young one or doesn't throw the egg out. The host brings up the young one. Back to our elephants, and they're all over here. I'm just surrounded. Looks like that one is lying down. Yes, it is lying down, but you can tell that is not a very flat spot. There is an incline, so it's easier to get up. They can lie down even in a flat surface, but standing up can be a little bit of an issue, and so they will always find a termite mound to lie on so that they can get up quite easily. Well, I'm gonna continue on, see if I can find Jasiri. Let's take you to another live location.
It's a beautiful assemblage of animals utilizing this open area here. From that zebra mare to the blue wildebeest bull and a whole herd of impalas, just enjoying the fresh growth in this open clearing amongst the flowers blooming in the late spring, early summer. I tell you, this area has got quite short grass. It's very open. It's probably kept that way by all the animals because it's a naturally open area, and so the animals would congregate here because of the safety of being able to see danger. And in doing so, they feed and they trample and they keep the area nice and short, but also very productive. Plenty of middens and dung piles, keeping the soil fertile. Plenty of sun and rain to feed the plants and make them grow nice and strong and nutritious. It's so nice to see the different animals. There's even a warthog there, but I don't think BK will be able to see it from where he is. It's sort of to the left there, BK, behind this leadwoods branches. If you keep going a little bit more, it's just in the area. Yeah, you got him. There's even a warthog feeding at the edges there, probably snuffling up some of the small shoots, digging with its snout for any roots and tubers. So this is great because all of these animals feed on different food or different parts of the vegetation. The zebras don't mind the longer, rougher stuff. The warthogs will be digging up all sorts of roots and tubers, and they're also quite they're not very selective. The wildebeest like the short stuff. As you can see, as that wildebeest in a moment, PK is going to show you, is busy with its head down, cropping the shortest of the grasses. Really enjoying the short stuff. No real issues with trying to get to the long ones because it's got a very flat mouth, just like a wide-mouthed rhino or white rhino. They really, really favor the short stuff. And then, oh, this one, look. Sihle, I'll answer that question in a moment. I just want to have a look if this wildebeest is going to... So it looked like it was scent marking. Wildebeest have an interpedal gland, a gland... Oh, it is! Look what it's doing! It's using its forehead, and now it's going to rub its body. This is classic wildebeest territorial behavior. I don't often see it, to be honest. I mean, it happens a lot, but this is certainly the first time I've gotten to see it with WildEarth, so that's really great. So it's got glands in between its hoofs, it's got glands on its forehead, and then it usually rolls its body on the ground, also just to impregnate the scent onto its body and into the soil. Super clever. But Sihle, why do plants grow in different places and not others? That's a good question, because plants need different types of things. Some plants need shade, some need full sun, some like sandy soils, some like clay soils, and it's all to do with the minerals that are found in those soils. And so, yeah, you'll find different plants growing in all sorts of different areas. I'm not sure what these white flowers are. I'm actually not sure if they're even native. This is old farmland, so often in old farmlands you find all sorts of non-native plants growing. These ones I didn't see last year when it was green. I just popped onto Pride lands once or twice and I didn't notice these, so it's quite interesting. It's so great the zebras have wandered their way back into the clearing, and then the impalas are just there on the right as well. So all of these animals also looking out for danger for each other. The more of them there are, the better. This is common behavior that you see with all the antelopes, and a lot of these impalas will be pregnant right now, about to give birth. We've seen 3 impala lambs so far on Pride lands. None of them we've been able to get on film because they're very, very skittish and nervous. The mothers are still alone, haven't brought the impalas to the rest of the herd just yet. As you can see, they've all got fairly big bellies, so they're going to give birth, all of them, over the next few weeks. There should be very few left that are pregnant after that. That's how the survival strategy works. Flood the area with youngsters, and there's a higher chance that your youngster will survive. All of these ones that are born early, a week or two early, they're likely to be picked off by the predators because they stand out. Any predator will see a tiny animal and instinctively know that that will be an easier target. You can see the ram there watching over the ewes, that he's probably impregnated himself, so he's got an interest in looking out for these ones, that their youngsters survive. It's probably his genes. It's actually a gorgeous scene, isn't it? Wow. Jay, I don't think that the density of predators is particularly low, to be honest. We've got a lot of hyenas. I mean, certainly one very strong clan called the Pridelands clan. And then there's, at least 2 different groups of male lions that come through here. We've got the Masingulo males, big, beautiful, fully grown males. And then there's a couple of younger males that seem to be quite nomadic, passing through every now and again. I think one was seen not so long ago. BK, you saw a young male lion not long ago, right? Yeah, with Taylor. I haven't seen one yet, not this particular cycle. And we know that the Pixie Pan female and her 2 youngsters, although I haven't seen them for a while, there were 2 leopards spotted in recent days in different parts of the reserve. And we've had cheetahs pass through, wild dogs pass through as well. And there's jackals here and there. So I wouldn't say it's exceedingly densely populated with predators, certainly not relaxed predators, especially the leopards, but they're around. It's just getting at that time of year now, it's very difficult to spot them in this thick green vegetation. And of course, these animals are relaxed now because it's a nice open clearing and there's plenty of eyes and ears to spot danger. But should there be a scent on the wind that passes their nostrils, they will all be very alert. And we see it often when it's windy. They can't smell. There's too much wind, there's too much gusts, and they get very nervous because they do know that there are predators around. So this is something we really like to see. Numbers of animals all together in open clearings, all just doing their thing.
Welcome back to the Mara, where our lions are lying flat. You can see he just came to the grass there, find a suitable spot where he'll at least spend some few minutes, maybe half an hour to an hour, you never know. And the other one is upside down. He's feeling some breeze on his stomach. Very nice position there. The other lioness from on the other side of the river felt a little bit hot and she went into the bushes. Remember, I've not yet identified who these are individually, but I know they're from the Bila Shaka coalition. So we can only see two. The third one is still in the long grass. So we're waiting for them to walk out so that we can be able to see them. They've been patrolling around here for quite a while. So I remember there's a lion that we always see, not often. His name is Bob Marley or the split nose. He is always afraid of these lions, and because of that he keeps on shying off, because if they come across him then it's going to be brutal. It seems like they want to take over this other side because it's actually the Mugoro area joined with the River Pride area. So at least we have to wait and see what they will do.
I have moved away from my big herd of elephants and I've come across another herd of elephants. These ones, they're about 15, and lots of young ones. One thing I noticed is one of our female that I was expecting she would give birth has got a young one. See that female with one tusk? She's got a young one, so she gave birth also. How beautiful is that? Another bundle of joy is that we have. I know her. She's called Mama Moja, the mother with the female with the one tusk. About Jasiri, I'm sure you are asking yourself why I haven't spoken about him all this time. Is the last time I saw him was last week. He was walking much better. I haven't seen him, and I've been stopping to take a look at all the herds, see if I could find him. I haven't spotted him. One thing tells me that if he fully recovered, I might not be able to fully, pinpoint who he is. But if I see him, I will definitely, say it. But he was doing very well. He was walking much faster. He was putting enough weight on that leg, so it means it was on the way to full recovery. And it was also, I was very happy, I must say, to see it. The first time I spotted him, I remember he was in such pain. He didn't even want to hear the sound of vehicle. He was always running away. But the last time I saw him, which has taken about 3 months, he is almost fully recovered. But if we spot him, team is looking, I'm looking. If we spot him and recognize that it's him, we will definitely, show it and also tell everybody. But it's very nice to see all these young ones. They're everywhere. But I'm going to continue and see if I can find my lions now.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Tswalu Kalahari Reserve. We got a sighting of a Springbok and just lying on the shade. And we're going to talk a little bit about this, the Antelope Springbok. It's quite very hot. The temperature here at Tswalu Kalahari, it's about 35 degrees plus, maybe let's say 38 degrees. And what's happening is the Springbok, it's an animal that is very adapted to the dryness of the Kalahari. And the reason is that they can go also for quite a long time without drinking water. And quite fascinating with the Springbok is that they are mixed feeders. When I talk about mixed feeders, we're talking about animals that can feed on grasses and also feed on tree leaves. And then that helps them to adapt. And when it's very dry, when there's no grasses, then they will go for tree leaves, which the trees, we're talking about trees that are evergreen throughout the year, they are green. And what we're looking at, that is a male Springbok. If you look at the thickness of the one, unfortunately there are no females around to compare, but the males have got more, they've got more horns, more thick horns than the female. And yeah, it's quite nice. It's just relaxing from the sun. We should be learning a lesson from the Springbok that is very hot. And the other name for the Springbok, scientific name, it's called Antidocus marsupialis. If you know, a marsupialis, it's a like a kangaroo. It's a marsupialis. Marsupialis means pouch-like. Then the kangaroo has got a pouch to put a baby, but unfortunately the Springbok doesn't have a pouch to put a baby. At the back, towards the rump, the fur close almost like if you put your hand where the brown meets at the rump, and then you get a white patch. If you put your hand almost like a pouch, and then when they've been alarmed, they will open that pouch and it becomes fluffy, and which we call, at that moment, they will be jumping around doing what is called pronking. And pronking is a way of disguising the predators. You know, you have to, if you run and jump higher than another one, then you're not going to get eaten. But if you don't jump very high, then you get eaten, because the predators, they will look for the weakness, the one which cannot run or jump very high.
We were talking a moment ago about the wildebeest having glands on its forehead, and now impalas also have special glands. Now, they have some all over the body, but specifically the wildebeest has got the glands on its forehead, right, and in between the toes. But impalas have these interesting glands on the back legs, which you can't quite see on this one, just below the grass line there, but they're called oh, goodness gracious me, I almost said the wrong thing. Told everyone the wrong thing. They're called metatarsal glands. Now, the exact function of these glands is not known, but I'm sure those of you who've been watching have probably seen these glands before. As the impala, come on now, impala, you were walking around so much a moment ago. Now it just wants to look majestic and cool. So there's an idea that when these impalas, there's a better one there on the left there, BK. You see those group of female impala that are just feeding on their own there? There's some nicely out in the open that we can see their metatarsal glands nicely. So the theory is that if they get frightened, that these little black pom-poms right down on the ankles of the impala can emit a scent of some sort that only the impalas can smell. And that way, see, like that one just got a fright there, just like a little jump. So something like that might trigger the release of this chemical or scent that only the impalas can smell, and it might help them when they run. What impalas do is they tend to just run in every direction when there's a predator. They scatter. And of course that makes them very vulnerable. So then they can follow this scent trail back to a central area where they can hopefully... look at this male. He's getting a bit of scent as well. So they could follow the scent trail back and rejoin the rest of the herd. That's the theory. It's not proven, as far as I'm aware. But now this male is sniffing the scent of the female's urine. We talked about this with the elephants earlier. Oh no, he's just eating. Never mind. It looked like he was smelling the scent, and I would have thought that's very strange because it's definitely not the rutting season. There's no reason for him to be testing the female's reproductive cycle. Anyway, the wildebeest is just following this herd of impala. It's a lone wildebeest, and it's a male. It's almost certainly the territorial bull in the area we saw. It's scratching its feet and laying down and putting its head on the ground. And it's got a very good territory, this wildebeest, an excellent territory, in fact. There's this open grassland, which is prime wildebeest habitat, plenty of trees for shade, and Ndlovu Dam is not 400 meters away from here, maybe even less. So it's really the perfect place for a wildebeest bull. Now all he needs is some females to come through, and what he'll end up doing is if they came into this territory, he would stop them from leaving and attempt to try and mate with as many of them as possible, or at least stop them from leaving until they're out of their reproductive cycle. And once none of them are in estrus anymore, he probably wouldn't care and they would keep moving. But he's got an overwhelming urge to protect this area and mate with females that might come through. And the fact that he's got a very good territory means that he's probably going to have lots of female company. You can see the tail swishing. There's a few flies around, as we were experiencing earlier today at lunch. I don't know if the cold, blustery weather is causing the flies to stay low to the ground. Yeah, no, I don't think that zebras and wildebeest really clash that much. They eat different parts of the vegetation, and they're not vying for territories together, and they're not vying over females, like fighting. This one's doing it again. Watch this. Oh no. It's just having a bit of a rest now. It's a hard day when you have to eat grass. No, he is actually doing a bit of a territorial marking. So he might be itchy. There might be some herbaceous plants there which are good against fleas and things, but I suspect that they're leaving a scent when they do that. You often see them scratch as they do it. Now, I'll explain what it's doing in a moment, but zebras and wildebeest might clash, let's say, if there was an extreme scarcity of grass, like extremely little grass. Then you might see them fighting when there's nothing else to eat, or if there's an extremely scarce amount of water, then they might also fight at a small waterhole. But right now, at this time of year, there's no reason for them to fight. They're helping each other by looking out for danger. And in fact, the zebras make the life for the wildebeest a bit easier because they cut the grass shorter, which the wildebeest can then feed on easier. Now, with the wildebeest territory, what we saw it doing right now, rolling on the ground, it will open up this bare patch. So when you see a wildebeest, and you can see him doing this, look around the area. If you see lots and lots of bare patches all over, then you know that you're probably right in the center of its territory. It's leaving a very, very strong marker here so that any females passing through won't miss it. And then the further you get to the edge of its territory, it will leave less and less of them, because it doesn't want the females to congregate there. It wants them to come to this part, the central part, and stick around. So strong. It's an odd body shape, isn't it? Long front legs and shorter back legs, but it makes them very efficient when they're moving. And you can really see the muscles there, especially when they stretch after lying down. Incredibly fast animals. They look quite awkward when they're just walking along, but when they're running at full speed, they're like black lightning. Greased lightning, some might say.
Welcome back to Tswalu Kalahari Reserve. We got a pygmy falcon and then quite a very beautiful bird. Very small bird. We're talking the size of plus minus 15 centimeter, talking about from the tail to the head. The pygmy falcon is a bird of prey, which we will call it a raptor, and they will nest. The nest, it's onto the nest with the sociable weaver. They'll take over one compartment of the sociable weaver, and maybe I'll make a joke like maybe they're renting a compartment. I don't know how they're paying, but what's happening there is that the pygmy falcon, as it stays there, it might prey onto the sociable. There's a record, but it's very rare where the pygmy falcon will feed onto the sociable weavers. but the pygmy falcon, most of their diet it would be the lizards. We're talking snakes, but the snakes would be not. We're not talking about the puff adders. They're very big for pygmy falcon to kill. And then we're talking small snake like sand snakes, that size, and also some insects. They'll feed onto them, and then the male and female, you will differentiate them at the back. The male will be having a rusty red at the back, and that's how you can know. And the other interesting thing is that where the pygmy falcon stays, in the compartment where the pygmy falcon stays, there is some deposition, some feces, the droppings of that pygmy falcon. It's all around the entrance, and of which the sociable weaver doesn't have that deposition of feces around the entrance. Yeah. Can you repeat the question again, please? I didn't get that. Okay. Question is that how long have I worked with the woodpeckers? Unfortunately, this is not a woodpecker.
That's the name of the person.
Oh, sorry. That's quite a funny one that I'm calling. I apologize for that. Yeah, I've worked for 7 years. I've been working for Tswalu Kalahari for 7 years, and then, this place is very fascinating with what we're seeing right here of the pygmy falcon. Then if you can see, Dave, if you can go down to where we've been seeing that pygmy falcon, you can see those sociable weavers. That's where that pygmy falcon stays into those nests. All right, we're gonna wrap up and continue. We'll continue. We can continue with the drive now and see what we're gonna find.
Welcome back to the matter where lions are lying upside down, just the two of them. Very, very nice to see. You can see this first one here scratching his belly. But how nice. And the second one is still doing the same. Very nice. So coalition males always hang around together, and it's always very nice seeing them together like this. Sometimes they can separate a little bit, and that's why we sometimes hear the contact call when they roar in the evening or during the day, trying to locate each other, because they are stronger together when they're patrolling these territories. Kian, thank you for your question. How many males are there usually in a pride? It depends, actually. I can say sometimes we have one that can conquer a pride area and have several females together with them. So it actually depends on how many were ousted out from the pride they were. So if 3 brothers were ousted out, they'd end up forming a coalition, 3 of them. Sometime one male can form a coalition with not only blood brothers, but forming a coalition just when they meet over in the nomadic life. So I would say it varies. So pride male members or dominant male varies in a pride. Not only one, but sometimes you can have, because we have 6 here, so one of them died, so we only have 5. So I would say it varies at times. You can have 1, you can have 2, 3. So it doesn't matter how many will own up a pride. Jimane, is that how usually lions sleep? Yes. This is normally what they do. So when they feel hot on their bellies, they'll always turn upside down to get a breeze onto their stomach. So this is their normal. You can hear the hippos snorting. Some of the big hippo bulls have seen the lions. They just come closer to investigate. The more the sun is sinking down in the horizon, the more cooler this grass becomes. So soon these lions will walk out into the open, and it will be nice to see them out in the open. That's the hippo bull that is snorting. He can see the lions, so he's not happy at all. I'm still going to hang around with these lions and watching this hippo getting annoyed as I take you over to another live location.
So we just saw a really cool thing. I think this could be a Diedrich's cuckoo female. Oh, it's being mobbed. Check it out. That's so cool. So I think that's a Diedrich's cuckoo female. So a male just landed there now. So it's difficult to tell the cuckoos, especially at this distance. I can't see clearly. But I think it's a Diedrich's cuckoo female, and the male landed there a moment ago and was doing a courtship. It almost looked like a courtship. It was waving a piece of food around and dancing up and down, and then it fed this one and then flew off. Now, I know cuckoos don't have parental care, so it's not a youngster that the parent was feeding. Oh, it's gone now. Darn. It got too much aggression from the drongos, but then the drongos came along and chased it. So now, remember, cuckoos lay their eggs in the nests of other birds, and when they do that, the youngsters sometimes kill. And we'll talk about this bird in a second as well. So the young cuckoos kill the host's birds. So what happens is the other birds will want to chase them off. That was really, really interesting to see. Oh, so sad that they flew off, though. It was such an awesome segment, like a little thing that was happening. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. I'm sure they'll come back. This is another really awesome bird. This is a African green pigeon, which is a fruit eater, and we've got lots and lots of fruit trees here on Pride lands, especially fig trees close to the water's edges or the dams and things, and then lots of jackalberries, and that's what this pigeon will be focusing on. It's a fruit eater, so it basically takes the role of parrots. There's not too many parrots around here, and the pigeon will take that role. It's a really, really cool bird to see as well. Haven't seen too many of them. I wonder where those cuckoos went. I'd love to see them again. That was really, really awesome behavior. Hope we get to see it again.
So welcome back to the Mara River, where our hippo is still very, very annoyed because the lions have woken up. They're starting to be mobile. So you can see how he's staring at them. Very, very nice. I'll be able to identify this lion, and that is Koshoke. Beautiful mane is starting to cool off there. So it's come out into the open, and the other one is Chongo, the other next to him. Very, very nice. That is what is making the hippo go bizarre. Let me just change position so we can be able to see where he's going. Seems like he's going to be out in the open. Time for a little cleanup. Shamia, what do lions like to eat? Lions can eat everything they come across. So they can take on warthogs, they can take wildebeest, they can take zebra, but preferably they prefer larger prey like zebra, wildebeest, buffalo, and even giraffes. But a time like this, when there's lots of rain, so the food is scarce, so lions specialize in taking down warthogs. The hippo's going crazy out here. It looks like he has a little injury there. Yeah, that looks like a bite mark. Looks like these lions were in a fight. Yeah, there's a fresh wound there. Looks like another lion bit him. He's watching where his brother is. So this lion, the coalition of the five, come from a prey where we call it Double Cross. Their father was named Lord Papit and Olbarnoti. So on the 18th of November, just 2 days ago, their father died from old age. His father was about 16 years old. So he died peacefully in the plains of the Mara at a place called the Double Cross area. So leaving a very strong gene like this. So this ensured continuity of a very big gene like this. So Lorpapit is Masai for hairy one. That lion was a big hairy lion. So as we watch this lion slowly cleaning himself, let me take you over to another live location.
After much Bundu bashing, much movement, we found Shidulu again. She may actually, well, there is a kill somewhere. I can't see it. But it's in that big jackalberry that's at the back of her. There were 2 hyena around as well. She's moved into the really thick portion of the drainage between Western Quarantine and Rebecca's Road. But it's quite a tight sighting because of the position. She's on a termite mound that is pretty much on the western side of the bank. So it's a tight squeeze for the vehicles. So that means that there's lots of people quite close to me, so we're just going to keep it low tones and just watch. Listen to the sounds and things like that. I see something I'd like to point out, then of course I'll do that. Or of course if you have questions. Yogesh, you have a really interesting question, a very good question. You'd like to know if chuffing is the same as sawing? No, it is not. Sawing is a territorial call. It advertises the leopard's presence, and that's what you heard Shidulu do earlier. Chuffing is a friendly, almost a friendly communication between leopards. So if Tlalamba sees Tingana, you'll often hear her chuff. When Shidulu is calling her cub, or any leopard is calling their cub, then you'll hear them chuffing. It's basically a familiar sound, a sound that they'd use with a familiar. If it's not a familiar, then they'll growl, they won't chuff. But it's a communication between leopards, and that is friendly. I think I can finally see the carcass, but unfortunately, like I said, it's a tight squeeze. So the fact that it's a tight squeeze means that we are going to have to move in order to let the other vehicle out. So we're going to do that now. She was looking very sleepy. So I told you I can see the kill in the tree, so I'm just going to first find a spot where I can reverse into. Ah, the sound of a car turning on in a sighting, isn't it peaceful? All right, off I go, and I'll let you know when I'm in position again.
Well, from Shidulu to Shepherd's Tree male, this is one big leopard that we know for the last almost 3 years. We haven't seen him the whole of this season, and today is just that day. Everything has fallen in place, and he's right here in front of me. I don't know if you can see something. He's breathing very fast or very heavily. very deep inside the grass. That is a leopard. He is a very big male. I would think he's over about maybe around 13 years. They live quite a long time, leopards, about 18 to 20 in the wild. Some say about 25, but I would say 25 is in captivity. But they live much longer than other cats. When I say cats, I mean, lions and tigers and all the rest. They live much longer. This is, a cat that is well adapted to living in all types of conditions, from cold areas, a desert, open savanna. There are high mountains. They are found everywhere. And this guy, he is so big. I would like to stay here for a little bit longer, so that when he wakes up, we can actually share the sight with you.
Right, so we're driving up the edge of Pride Lands right now, looking for any tracks of predators. We came across this. It's a predator in its own right. I want to ask if you know what these are. Have you seen these before? What are they and what are they doing? Any ideas at all? I know what they are, and it's very interesting. And I'm actually hoping that we get to see what it is they're looking for and get to witness the event, although I don't think it's going to happen because I can't see any of their food around. Anybody know what these are? These incredible insects. Or they've stopped there, so they seem to be making a decision. They're looking for something. I don't know if they're looking for I don't even know how they pick them up. Is it a scent? Is it a sound that they hear? They're looking for something. Well, they seem to be stopping there. Look at that. They're really just circling around that one little spot there. I don't see any holes in the ground that they might disappear into, but there might be something there that they are interested in. Oh, wait. No, they are. They do look like some of them are definitely carrying stuff. Yes. They've found what they're looking for. Check that out. Or are they coming? No, they're coming down the pathway with the things. So it looks like they've actually come from somewhere. I need to use my binoculars. I need to know, because I can't see super clearly in the picture. Oh no, we're too far. I can't see. Oh, red ants is a good guess. They're carrying some red things, but these are not red ants. These are really, really black in color, but just like red ants, I assume red ants also can bite and sting. These ones also bite and sting, and it's very painful, incredibly painful, in fact. Now, I can't tell, are these ones coming back from something, or are they going to something? I think they've already caught what they're looking for. Yes, I reckon so. Any other guesses? So these are ants. Okay, so that part is correct. Soldier ants. Dr. Octavan, soldier ants also a very good guess. Now, it might be called that in a sort of common sense, but they've got another specific name that people often use for this particular type of ant. I noticed that not a lot of them are carrying things. So it looks like these ants might have already raided a termite colony. They might be carrying the spoils of war back to their nest, where they can then use that as food to feed the rest of the family. Any more guesses what these might be? They've just come back from a raid. Now, there's a particular thing they like, which is termites. Yes! Snow leopard, well done. These are Matabele ants, and they've come back, I suspect, from a raid. I think they've already gone somewhere and gotten a whole bunch of termites. They've caught a whole bunch of termites, and they're now carrying them back to their nest where they can go and feed the rest of the group that hasn't come out. So this is only a small percentage of this ant colony. This is called a raiding party. And this is a very big raiding party. That's the bonnet of our vehicle there, so we can't go down anymore. They're moving off towards the left anyway, into the grasses. So this raiding party has gone and found a termite mound which was accessible. Then they piled in there. And now if you look carefully, there are two different sizes of Matabele ants. There's big ones and there's small ones. Now the big ones are mostly the ones that are carrying the food back to the nest. The smaller ones are the shock troops. They climb into the burrow or into the termite colony or termite mound, and they're the ones that sting and immobilize and kill all the termites and then bring them out for the heavier soldier or the heavier sort of Matabele ants to carry back. It's incredible. So this is the tail end now. You can see it's getting a little bit less. There's a lot less of the ants now. So these are the ones that are carrying heavier food packages. So now you can see nicely the bigger ones and the smaller ones. Do you see that? The big ones are almost all carrying something quite heavy. And now what's very interesting is you'll often find Matabele ants are just like real soldiers. They never leave a man behind. So sometimes you'll even see them carrying wounded or killed members of their own species. Now I don't know whether this is to bring them back because they might be able to, I don't know if ants molt. I assume that they do molt. So they might be able to help them, keep them alive, and then they'll molt, and then their legs are inside. Because remember, they've got an exoskeleton. Their body develops inside. Or they might use them as food themselves. Interesting, I'm not exactly sure. But these ones, I'm sure, are almost home. They're moving into the grass, and this is the tail end of them now. It was a very big raiding party. There must have been a few hundred ants there, maybe even more, which is quite exceptional. I don't know, BK, can you look at the further back there? There's a few very big ones. I don't know if they're carrying like massive things. See those ones there carrying big, whatever it is, they're carrying big ones. They did very well. Well, it looks like there's going to be a feast tonight, so well done. Hopefully these ants will go out and hunt again tomorrow.
There is a feast here as well. All the other vehicles have moved out, which is always nice. I don't mean we love to share, but it's always nice to be able to speak and answer your questions and all of that at a normal voice level. Shidulu has, actually not in the jackalberry, but in this tamboti, just to the front of her, what appears to be a little Impala lamb, but it's very difficult to see at the moment, plus we have our rain roof on. If I manage to see an angle, then I'll show it to you. But I can assure you that she's got some food for the evening in this tamboti. It's just such a beautiful sight. So, so, so special. I often think, can you imagine 60 years ago, at least, I'd say 100 years to be safe. People were roaming around this area. People that we know now were born in this area. Before it was fenced, and then became the Sabi sands and fences dropped and all of that. Before this was property that could belong to somebody. This land was places where people would live. Just think about that for a second, because that means that these animals were roaming around. There'd be so much confrontation between humans and predators. And also they'd learn to live alongside each other, avoid each other. It's just such an interesting thought. Something we've lost now. Hi, Nebulana. just like to know if her other cub is still around. It has not been confirmed that she has a second cub and that it is around, or that nobody has seen any suckle marks, anything like that either. So basically there's no sign of a second cub. Ah, yes. That being said, there certainly could be one. And I remember one of the first times I ever saw Shudulu. She was in a tree, and she had just had the litter that Kara is from. It was Kara and another litter mate. It was two of these little cubs. And it was also one of the first times that I'd ever spotted a leopard. I ever spotted it on my own. And it was about 2 years ago. And she was up in a tree in a marula, just gorgeous. I remember being so excited to see her. And then she started chuffing. And I never expected what happened next. Two little cubs come bounding out of the bush. Tiny, tiny ones. One stayed at the base and the other one began to climb this huge marula to be up with Mum. And it was Kara. And she couldn't actually she couldn't climb like a leopard could. I mean, she was only about maybe 12 weeks old at the time. Very tiny. Very, very tiny. I never expected a cub like that to be able to go up a tree. And she latched onto that tree, all four limbs out around, and used just her claws to shuffle her way around the tree like in a spiral until she got to the top, joined her mother. She goes, I just have to mind our rain roof here because I think that it may get in shot. If she decides to climb, but I don't want to reverse right here. I'm going to grab that question again, or the viewer's name again, rather. It was about whether the fur of a leopard is nice and soft, or is it all bristly. No, Tanleys, I think. You wanted to know if a leopard's fur is soft, or is it bristly? I can happily say that I have not touched the fur of a leopard. There's other furs that I've touched, but it's not because I go after the animals trying to touch them, but because there's a kill or stuff like that, like an Impala and scrub hairs. And unfortunately, when I was little, I was taken to a lion park, and I thought nothing of it. I think lots and lots of South Africans are like that. It's not something to feel bad about. We all go through that, and we all learn. So I have touched a lion, touched a cheetah, but I've not touched a leopard. That's not something that you need to do anyway. Nobody needs to touch a leopard. But from just looking at it, I'd say the leopard is pretty soft. Where are you going, big girl? I think there might be a hyena down on that other side. But we're going to see if we can position ourselves so that we can see the kill. In which case, if she goes and climbs up... Oh, shall we just wait and see if she does this? Let's just wait and see. Look at her. And up she goes out of our view. I'll reverse just a little bit so we can see her. Tell me when it's good. With the rain roof, that should be yay? Nay? All right, we're going to have to find a new way to be able to see her. She's actually put it right at the top of the tree. Oh, it's so unfortunate I can see it and you can't. All right, we're going to reposition so that you can.
Well, from Trishala's leopard to leopard here in Masai Mara, I'm still with my shepherd's tree male, and we have changed positions, and the only thing we can see now is the tail and a little bit of the back leg. It's quite unusual for leopards in the Mara to be lying on the ground. That's considering the amount of predators we have here, especially hyena and lion. It is very risky, very dangerous. But this guy, I think he has been through a lot. He doesn't really care. When he stands up, or when we see him, you will notice that he is one big leopard. I think I would compare his size to Hukumuri's or Hook, they call him in Djuma. I would compare that. Apart from him, I have that beautiful sunset, and it's that time of day that we tell the day goodbye and welcome the night, because the light is fading very fast. I'll let you enjoy that for a few seconds.
From the leopard, that is a very nice sighting. We haven't seen the shepherd for a long time. Now back to our Ololashe, or Koshoke rather, who is just sleeping here in the open, very, very warm. I can see the other one is still tucked in the long grass. Very, very concealed. You can hardly tell if there's a lion right there. At least the grass is short there and it's warm enough to keep him warm for now, before he decides to patrol this area. The hippo are still shouting and snorting after him, because sometimes they fall prey, and right where he's lying is a hippo path. That is where the hippos use to walk out of water. So they know that their path is closed. But soon, they might think of another path to use. The other one looks like he wants to join, so he's just raised his head. Craig, will a lion try to kill a hippo? Yes, a lion will try to kill a hippo, but not only one will go after a hippo, maybe a hippo baby. So this lion might go for a hippo baby, but you find most of the time lions in groups of 4 to 5 will attack a hippo, because hippos weigh about 2 tons. This lion weighs about 250, so it's not a match to a hippo at all. So I'd say one lion will not definitely go after an adult hippo. They have to be in a big group, or at least three males can try and bring down a hippo. We had a collision of male lion here. We call them the musketeers, who used to hang around here, and they had specialized in taking down hippo. There was Scar, there was Skio, there was Morani. They used to bring down hippo, but now they've grown old. They're about 13 years old, so that is at least an old age. But him, together with his 4 brothers, they can be able to bring down a hippo. There is on his face, that is scar from fighting. You can see he has a big scar that is not healed out. So those scars were inflicted from a fight. So remember, this came from being bachelors, being ousted out from their pride area. They became nomadic, and before they owned up a territory, they had to come into a very big fight. So that scars on his face came from fights. More? How many prides of lions do we have in the Masai Mara? We have at least more than 60 lion prides. So, but it's not a definite figure because of pride dynamics. There are main prides and satellite prides, especially for young females who disperse and create new prides at the periphery of the main prides. For example, we have a breakaway from the river pride. So that lioness we saw yesterday trying to hunt the tortoise, she has 2 sub-adult youngsters who are about to get about the age of 2 years. So they're still on the periphery of the river pride area. So they've broke away from the main pride to form a new pride. So counting all to that, we have at least, I would say, 60 prides altogether. I might not be right, but just that figure can add up to the main prides and the breakaway prides. We might have more, but I think, to my opinion, that is a definite figure that we have here in the Masai Mara.
Well, it's nice to hear about those male lions. We haven't seen them for quite a while, so it's a good welcome. My leopard seems to be oversleeping. I don't know, because I'm very anxious to see it. It did sit up just once, looked around, and then went back to sleep. It is normal. I'm sure you know this. it is normal for these beautiful cats to just rest for as many hours as possible, especially when they've eaten well. I don't know, it's because I'm anxious to see him. It seems to be taking forever to him to sit up. This male has got a very huge territory from the sausage tree area all the way to here is quite a big area. I'm sure there is younger males around, which means he's walking on, very dangerous grounds, because if other younger males find him, he might get into trouble. But I think this used to be his former territory, which is very, very big and wide. I think I'm going to stay a little bit longer here, see if he gets up. We might have a chance to see his face, because I don't know when I'm going to see him next.
Hello again. We're just having a sighting of male Springbok. Unfortunately, just gone beyond the bush. But we're gonna carry on. I don't think it's gonna come out of the bush, and then we just lost. We're just gonna carry on with the drive. Okay, we are out for now.
I'll be from operate. So this is as much as we can see of Shidulu at this point. There we go. Oh, very precariously positioned. And it is an Impala lamb that she's got. You can just see her tail in the background there, that she's using kind of the base of her tail, the part that's attached closest to her body. It's quite stiff, even though it's hanging down, and that's helping her to maintain this quite awkward and uncomfortable position, I would imagine. We've had to get quite far in order to see her, because she's so high up into the tree and with our rain roof. So I can just hear her crunching on the carcass. But I'm not sure if you'll be able to hear that. But we'll give it a go. Just be silent for a little bit. Quite a big crunch. I hope you heard that. I'm sure you would have heard some of that crunching. And that Cokie Franklin that was calling in the background too. Shikla Elementary, you'd like to know how many spots does Shidulu have? I'm going to give you a challenge, and I'm going to say you guys should count them. And the best way to do that, if maybe, I'm sure you're probably in biology class or one of the science classes, but maybe next time you're in math, you should try counting how many spots Shidulu has. The easiest way to do that would be to do 10 centimeter by 10 centimeter little transects, or little patches, and count how many spots there are there, figure out the area of the skin, and then come up with an estimate. Every leopard is different. I don't know how many spots exactly Sociable has, nor do I know how many spots exactly any leopard has. But generally, it is around 1,000 to 1,800 spots, or rosettes, rather. Because we know leopards have rosettes and cheetahs have spots. CJ, you'd like to know if she's a descendant of Karula. She is not a descendant of Karula. Karula's lineage, as you know, is a very extensive one, and one that we've had such a privilege to follow. But Sociable is not. Sociable is, or her mother was the Ingrid Dam female. And they were not from the same lineage as Karula, Thandi, Tlalamba, Hasana, Sibui. Oh, sorry, as in Sibui was not part of the lineage too. What I was getting at is that you can tell the difference in actual face, almost in the way that they look. And I find a lot of similarities between Tlalamba, Hasana, Thandi, Kuchava. All of those leopards in the Karula lineage, they have a hereditary face or some features. When you look at Sociable, she's got a different face. When you look at Sibui, she's got a different face. It's such a privilege to get to know them so intimately that we can see those differences. I think we'll stick around here for a little bit longer, but it's starting to get just a little bit dark, and getting out of this block might be a problem. So as long as we have some good light, we'll stick around, and after that we'll move off.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, guys. I'm sure we'll get Ngala back in no time. But we still have Sociable here, chomping down. A little lamb like this will not last her very long. Unfortunately, speaking about our royal lineage, Barbara, let's answer your question first. You'd like to know if leopards ever fall out of trees. By mistake, I can't say I've seen a leopard mistakenly fall down a tree or out of a tree. I've seen them misstep and then use the momentum to get down a tree. but I've not seen one just plop out of a tree, asleep or something like that. I've definitely not seen that. But I have seen them move very quickly out of a tree, lose balance, and then use that momentum to kind of get down from the tree. So I was saying, speaking of the Karula lineage, I haven't had the opportunity to see Tamba, which is somebody I would like to see, or Quarantine. And Quarantine is, we can possibly see him because he is in Buffelshoek, or at least some of the time. I think those are the two main ones that I haven't had the opportunity to see from Karula's lineage. Well, like I said before we lost Ngala, we'll just hang around here until it gets a little bit darker, and then we'll head off.
Hello again. To Tswalu Kalahari Reserve, we got a red-crested koran just at the back of the tree. You can see it's almost like camouflage, very difficult to see, which is how they protect themselves with blending in with using the trees and grasses so that the predators cannot see this big bird, which is called the red-crested koran. You can see the crest very well, mostly when they will show the crest during courtship. Then the male will raise the red crest. That's where you're gonna see that crest. And then it's mostly ground bait. They will nest on the ground, and they will feed mostly on insects, invertebrates, and quite a very beautiful bird. And they also use they've got a very kind of unique behavior where they will fly up in the sky, and then as they come down, then they will fold their wings, and then it's almost like committing suicide, and then suddenly it opens the wing and land into the ground, which is it's mostly sometimes a two-way thing. It might be a signal to the female showing that there is a problem or an intruder where with that sea, and then the other individual will see that, okay, there's a problem in that area. And then the other thing, it's also some kind of a courtship where the males will show the females where they are. Very beautiful bird. Unfortunately, we'll have to leave him alone and continue with the drive. Thank you very much, Joy. The red-crested can lay up to, let's say, 2 eggs, and that's I'll say 2 chicks, and which is the eggs will be laid on the ground. We're gonna carry on with the drive. If there's no other question.
we've got a herd of buffalo. We were just discussing that there's a road that's disappeared here because elephants have pushed over a tree and no one realized there was a road there and it's turned into grass. And on this road walks some lovely buffaloes. It's a bit thick for us to drive on it now, though. We'll have to do some road maintenance. But it's nice to see these buffaloes have come from, I think, Leopard Dam. They must have been around that area earlier because they're walking directly away from it. That's a couple of large buffalo bulls walking on the edge of the herd, keeping it safe from any marauding predators that might be around. Wow, they're very big, powerful animals, aren't they? Really rugged beasts. Not something that you really want to come up against on a little hike out here. There's a whole bunch of them. I think this is one of the larger herds. Now there's 2 or 3 herds of buffalo that move around Pridelands. This is one of the larger herds, I believe. And as you can see, they're slinking into the thickets there. We'll try and get around after this to see if we can get a look at them as they approach through this drainage line onto the other side. It's amazing how quiet they are, though. We really didn't notice them until we were almost on top of them. They're maybe even heading down into this drainage line where they'll be sheltered from the wind, because it is quite windy still right now. And I can tell you from really, really cold. Really unpleasantly cold, actually, considering it's all relative, isn't it? It's not actually that cold, but because of the extremely warm temperature we've been having, it just feels really chilly. So all the buffaloes might also just be going down here to shelter from that. There's loads of buffaloes here. There's some behind us as well. Amazing. I see a few impalas through the thickets also watching where the buffaloes are. You know, if you read the guidebooks, it always tells you that following herds of buffalo will be lions. And so I'm sure that the impalas are not happy about the buffaloes being here. Don't bring the lions to our sleeping spot. It's going to get dark soon. In the next half an hour or so, it'll start dipping quite drastically and get dark quite quickly because of the clouds. And that means the impalas want to find a place to rest as early as possible and then just sit there and wait. And if these buffaloes come and chase them off, it means they'll have to find a new spot, and one that they haven't necessarily checked is safe.
You can see way in the background there's 2 spotted hyenas, and they've been stopped in the riverbed for a while now looking at this elephant, which we've been following for quite a while. He's been walking an odd kilometer or 2 down this riverbed, and he was tracking a herd of elephants for a while and desperately looking for any fresh signs. And none of the signs that I've seen cross have looked like it was recent. And I think he's decided to give up and just started eating. Looks like a young bull, but he's very tall. And he's quite active, and I think it's because of this cool weather that we're experiencing at the moment. Just have a look at that. Massive Timbavati riverbed. And a big elephant bull strolling along it. I've noticed every time as he walks, you can see the trunk moving on the ground. Along the ground, he picks up a bit of sand and throws it on his side like that. I'm not entirely sure why he would be doing that. Because it looks like each time he's walking across a trail, as he's walking parallel to the bank of the riverbed, the tracks of elephants cross diagonally from him. If I got the name correctly, Reichi, an elephant's tusks grow throughout its life. Usually at around 2.5 years to 3 years, you start to see the tusk protrude from underneath the lip, and then it grows throughout. What's interesting though is a big bull elephant like this guy, although his tusks are still growing, and he's got a decent set tusks for his age, but as soon as he starts hitting prime, towards the end of prime, and usually after the prime. That's when their tusks go into a growth spurt. And it should be very interesting to see this elephant in about 20-25 years. To see what the size of those tusks should be. You can see he's got his head held high even though his trunk's on the ground, and he's moving at quite a steady pace. Now he hasn't stopped much, only along the section where he was feeding on some lala palms, and he also had a bit of the reeds in the riverbed. He's mainly been hopping from the one game trail to the next. And that's why he's also crisscrossing the riverbed. Now each time he walks closer to the bank like he is at this point, we thought he might go up. So I think we're going to continue along and keep following him to see if he eventually follows a trail or not.
Well, not very much has changed on this side. And Shidulu is still enjoying her early supper. Is that lapa or... I was about to say dunch. No, there is a word. I've just forgotten it for early supper. Anyway, she's jumping about. Nothing's changed much, so let's just sit for a little bit and listen to the wonderful sounds. The birds have quietened down just a little bit, but maybe we hear the wind crunching and some of the sounds as the evening settles in. Well, it was really nice, and I think we'll stick around for another segment with her.
So this is the impalas I saw from across the drainage line looking towards the buffalo, and as I said, sometimes, you know, the guide books that you read will tell you that lion prides often follow buffaloes. And now just a moment ago, just before we came live here, there was some alarm calling in the distance behind where the impala are. And all the impala stopped and stared over there for a good 10, 15 seconds and then started to, you know, mill about a little bit. A lot of excitement, a lot of jumping. I'm not sure. Maybe they're just happy that they're not the ones being hunted, but we'll go and check out what that alarm calling was. It wasn't very close. It was quite far. But you can see a lot of exuberance, a lot of impalas jumping around and moving about. I mean, it's going to be a very dark and windy night, and it's going to be a little bit nerve-wracking for them. I mean, it's tough enough as it is for an impala overnight. Imagine now with all the wind, your senses are ruined. You can't smell anything, you can't see anything, and you probably can't hear it. Oh, look! It's the female impala with the horns. Hey, we haven't seen this impala for a long time. That's so fantastic. We sort of nicknamed it Edwina. I'm so glad to see Edwina still doing great. How are you doing? That's fantastic. How many of you have ever seen a female impala with horns? Did you see it there, BK? She was running off there at the back there. Oh, just poked one of them in the face with her horns. That's so interesting. Now, I don't know if this female impala will have different social interactions with the other females, being that she has horns. Do they treat her more like a male? Does she treat herself as slightly more dominant than the other impalas? I don't know. It's very interesting. That was such a stroke of luck. I did not even notice that impala until it just popped into the screen there. Amazing. So all now moving off away from the direction of where the alarm calling was happening. They're not looking too frantic about it because it was very far away and the wind is blowing towards us. So it's probably bringing the sound a little bit further than it would have otherwise. So that's good. So loud sounds like that definitely carry in the wind, but a small sound like a footfall of a leopard or a cracking branch, that'll get smothered by the wind and the sound of all the leaves and things. So that will definitely have an effect on what they can hear. Hi Nathan, 11 years old. That's fantastic. I'm so glad you're watching. What would happen to an impala female or a lamb if the mother got killed? It's a tough one. If the lamb was still suckling with the milk, it probably wouldn't survive. If it was right at that age where it might start to eat solid foods, or even just before that part, it might get forced to be weaned and maybe survive if it's able to keep up with the rest of the herd. But at this time of year now, any impala lambs that are born are going to be way too young to survive. So if the mothers get killed, unfortunately they're likely not to survive. I don't think another female impala will adopt a youngster from another female. I mean, the only circumstance I could imagine is that if one female impala lost her youngster and then one young impala lost its mother, that the two might then form a bond, but that's very unlikely. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Well, I mean, we might get to witness it. I mean, the impalas are about to get born now. The lambing season is upon us. We've seen a few of them. And as difficult as it is to witness, it's also very fascinating, and it's part of life. These impalas are incredibly well adapted to surviving out here. There goes Edwina with her horns. What a beautiful impala. That's so unique. You know, they're supremely adapted. Look at their slender bodies, incredibly fast, well camouflaged amongst the leaves. Lots of eyes and ears to spot danger. There's the ram. And why does she have horns? I don't know. It's a genetic abnormality. That's the only real reason why it has horns. There's no benefit to that female impala having horns. She cannot use those horns to impress other females or she's not going to fight over the dominance of females with other males. And those horns are also a very odd shape. They weren't well formed. So it's not that she's going to be using them to defend herself from a predator. I don't think that's in the instinct of a female impala. A male might, against a small predator, try and defend itself, but it's unlikely. It's purely a genetic abnormality. And we see it sometimes. I've seen Ngala Ngala females with horns. So they have that red color, but with horns, which is super interesting to see. There have been lionesses. I think in Botswana, a lioness was witnessed who had a full mane, just like a male lion, which is amazing. So that's why I was saying that lioness took on the role of protector, because she looked much larger than the other lionesses. She generally was the one who took the role of, looking out for the pride and trying to intimidate hyenas and other predators. But with this impala here, I don't think that's the case. It's decorative now. She just gets to look cooler than the other females because she's got accessories. So what we're going to do now next is we're going to head in that direction over there, which is where the alarm calls were coming from. We've got to do a bit of a long loop. I'm really hoping that we get to see something on the move. Predators will elicit the responses from the herbivores. And hopefully we come up with something really cool. It's now the turning point. You can see it's starting to get a bit darker, and so it's likely that predators are going to start getting active and start hunting and looking for prey and looking for all sorts of other stuff. My fingers are crossed. You can see the cloud cover coming over. as I said, we're going to keep moving and see what those alarm calls were pointing to.
And we are still here with this elephant, which, as you can see, is still zigzagging across the riverbed. But he's reached the point now where he's stopping every now and again to feed on either side of the riverbed. You can see that ears and the head bobbing as he's moving with determination. And look at the little birds. They're called fork-tailed drongos. You can see they're going down towards where the feet is and then come back up. And that's because as this elephant is walking, at the moment there's a lot of grasshoppers on the sand after the rain, so a lot of flying insects, and as he's walking he's disturbing them, and as they shoot up, the drongos try to grab some of them from the air. But I think we're going to push a little bit forward, see if we might get another view, because he's just moved around the bend. Now, an elephant bull like this, especially a young one, he doesn't look like he's in must, which is a hormonal state that they go in that pushes up their testosterone levels. Sikla, where is his herd? He doesn't have a herd at this point. He is already at such an age, judging from his size, that he's moving on his own. Now, an elephant bull at that age would be moving sometimes with other males in a similar situation. And when you do find them on their own, they're often doing exactly what this one's doing. Checking areas where he knows there's a lot of elephant activity, like the Timbavati riverbed. The banks up here has got good food. There's water nearby with seasonal pans up on the banks. So as the animals move through here, this elephant knows that if he walks the riverbed, he might pick up on the freshest tracks of a herd that's just passed through this area. And then if he thinks that it's a herd that's worth following, he'll follow their tracks. Now,
welcome back to Tswalu. We just stopped here. We've got very interesting big aardvark burrow. If you can look very right here, there's tracks of a warthog that has been moving in and out. I just want us to talk about a little bit of that aardvark hole, and which is, Dave, I think you have to be a little bit careful that if something comes out here, it doesn't attack you. And then what's happening here is that you can see inside the aardvark there, on the side, there's almost some lines going all around, which are the teeth of the warthog as it goes in and out. And then another thing is that we must know that this aardvark burrow, it was the architect or the builder, it was the aardvark. And when they do the aardvark, they will do 3 types of burrows, which is the natal burrows, or the feeding burrow, and a sleeping burrow. And then you get other animals like the warthog that will come and modify that hole and take it over. And then you got jackals staying in those burrows. Lots of animals will stay in that burrows. And also bird. There's a bird, if you can listen now. That's an ant-eating chat. Also, they will also make nests just at the rooftop of this burrow. There's a nest of an ant-eating chat, and then which is very mutual for the ant, because what they do is that as the animal goes in, as they will pick up some ants or some insects as animals clean out their burrows. That's a funny and interesting place to stay in. Thank you very much, Jackie. Aardvark are not very aggressive. Aardvark, they like the name aardvark means an earth pig, which is I'll say. And if I go globally, an aardvark could be like an eating bear, which are not very aggressive, very friendly. But I'll say we must watch out for only warthog. Those are the ones that you don't want to mess with. Okay, we're gonna move on and carry on with the game drive. Thank you very much. Repeat the question for Catherine, please. Good question. Thank you very much, Catherine. What's happening is that when the aardvark, when they dig their hole, they dig in such a way that it will go down and it comes back again up, so that the water will only saturate in the bottom, and then the animal will be almost a little bit higher to where the animal is. All right, thank you very much for the question. We're moving on. If there's no other question. CNET. I hope I'm pronouncing it very well. Thank you very well for the question. We've seen quite a lot of aardvark. Personally, there was a moment, if we had quite a lot of rainfall, unfortunately this year we didn't have enough rainfall, therefore your population of aardvark is going to be very low. And then, because there won't be a lot of termites and ants. But personally, for every game drive that I'll be doing, let's say my highest score for only 3 hours, I managed to see 12 aardvark, which is quite fascinating. Thank you. If there's no other question.
So Shidulu has walked off, and we had to get through the horrible block. And eventually we were just like, oh, let's just get out. And then you come to us, and she's in front of us. There she is. Hello, gorgeous. This is Bino's suckle marks time. I'm going to say negative on the suckle mark front, unfortunately. Bless you. Hello again, Shikla Elementary School. You'd like to know if her tail helps her balance. It certainly does. Imagine if you had a whole nother part in you that you could wrap around trees as you climb them. It helps you to stay stable, and it's very strong. So yes, the tail helps her very, very much. When we saw her in the tree just earlier, her tail was low, it was dangling, but it was stiff. That's because she's using it and the strength in it to keep her in that position. I've seen Tlalamba in a tree and her tail wrapped around the tree to try and get her that extra balance and extra stability. So it is certainly very, very helpful. And if it wasn't helpful, lots of animals wouldn't have them. Things that are helpful stick around. For example, fur, even big things like eyes, those type of things stick around because they're helpful to an animal's survival. And I'm sure you know of many, many animals that have tails. This is very lucky. I'm so surprised that she happened to be right where we came out. Resh, you'd like to know whether leopards would ever evolve into social cats? Yes and no, because I don't know. And evolution will prioritize...
Yeah, you're not
Sorry about that. Evolution will prioritize the things that increase survival. Now, if leopards were social animals, they would be in direct competition with lions. They were social cats. The fact that they're solitary cats mean that they're in competition for prey species, but not quite in direct competition in terms of their niche. They occupy different types of niches. And it's important to have those really subtle differences, because those subtle differences that make sure you're not a duplicate of another. Maybe you look a little bit different, but you're a duplicate of another. So I say yes and no because obviously I don't know, and evolution happens over hundreds of thousands of millions of years. But looking at patterns and trends in evolution, I think it's unlikely. But who knows, really? It's an interesting point of discussion. Off she slinks with that lovely white tip of the tail, telling us, "Follow me, Trishala, follow me." I will, Shidulu. I will. I got caught in a black monkey thorn. Senegalia burkinia. No, burkii. There we go. It was not pleasant, and I think I have a broken piece of the tip of the thorn. Many portions of my body. I'm just trying to keep an eye out for the road at the same time. Oh, that's quick. Woo. Popcorny, right in my face. The wind was just blowing directly from her behind to my face. I wonder if she'll take me to the road. Wouldn't that be nice? Smell it in. I hope you could smell that. Hot buttered popcorn. Surprisingly pleasant smell for anything's urine. Jack, you'd like to know how large a leopard's territory is. It is so variable. It can be anything from 10 kilometers squared or 8 kilometers squared to 100 kilometers squared. The number's 96 in my head because I know that in one of my books it says range up to 96 kilometers squared. But that is way too specific. Anything from a few kilometers to 100 kilometers squared, even probably a little bit more than that, because our knowledge about leopards is limited, especially about their movements, because they're so versatile, so adaptable. But what that territory size depends on is resources. So if there are plenty of resources around, territories can be much, much smaller. If they're very scarce resources, then territories need to be larger because they need to include certain things like water spots, good termite mounds, maybe a good den, as well as access to the opposite sex. Oh, look at this. What a good girl. She took me straight to the road. All right, we're going to catch up with her, get a nice view. She's being very, very pleasant to us.
What we have here in the very windy conditions is the flower from what's known as a raisin bush. This is a silver raisin, or sometimes white-leafed raisin. I think the name's interchangeable. Don't quote me on that though. But what I do know about this plant is it makes a very delicious little fruit, and they're little sugary hits, although they've got a very big seed pod in the middle, like a pip. So you just have a very thin layer of flesh, but it's very, very sugary and delicious. And these trees, actually, if you zoom out on that a little bit there, you'd see this is a very small bush, but they grow quite large, and they have very, very straight branches, which are very flexible. And in former times, they've been used often as the main component in a bow. So you can see those long straight branches are very, very flexible, and so they make very wonderful bows. And the flowers are obviously very great and intricate. Do you see that? There's lots of little insects moving around because they've got copious amounts of pollen, which is really great. Now, I know the bark is also used medicinally, but I'm not sure exactly how. But the roots are also used to treat chest complaints. But again, the knowledge escapes me on exactly how to use them, which is quite often the case with many of these bush, mooty type of plants. It does also make a fairly decent fiber rope if you're able to get some of the decent larger branches. You can strip the bark off so of the stem there, and you can make a decent fiber to make a rope. Well, that will take a lot of hard work, but it is, if nothing else, a very, very pretty little flower. It always adds a bit of splash of colour to the bush.
And we have left that elephant bull. He was still in the riverbed, and it looks he was still going to continue along the riverbed for a while to come. But now it's starting to get dark. You can hear all around us, all the francolins and the spurfowls, they are all starting to settle down for the evening. And this is the time of the evening that one animal in this area in particular starts to move, and that's the leopard. Now, yesterday afternoon we had a female leopard not far from this area. And we are hoping that maybe we might encounter her again. After today's rain, one of the biggest tasks that she's got at hand is to patrol her territory and remark. So we're gonna see if we might get lucky.
Welcome back to Tswalu. We've got a group of wildebeest here, with the female wildebeest, and there's some others further ahead of them. What's happening there? The wildebeest are very they are grazers. They will feed mostly on grasses, and they're very, they graze a lot. They're very hard on grazing, and they're very, when you talk about the behavior, the males are very territorial, and they will go on marking the territory of that area, and then from there, like you can see, there's one chowing all the shoot grass that we just had after more of about 60-70% mils of rain that we just had. Tommy, thank you very much. The males. The other thing is that I think something that might be confusing with other people is that both males and females, they've got horns. And then the interesting thing is that the males have got thicker horns than the female. And the other thing is the males tend to be by themselves more, or that most of the time, like I said, the males will go to patrol their territory, and when they do their marking of their territory to be by defecation on using the orbital gland, where they will rub their head onto the ground, also onto the trees, and just to leave some scent so that no other male will come into their territory. Unfortunately, but you do get some times where there will be a meeting of males from where the home range overlaps, and then that's where the clash will be, and then those animals will be fighting. Whoever wins then takes the territory. We're gonna move on if there's no other question.
Shidulu is doing a bit of a territorial patrol, scent marking and defecating as she goes along, but getting distracted every now and then by the possibility of a hunt. In this darkness, however, I am not going to follow her, so I'm going to take the road. I can still see her, but I'm going to take the road instead of bundu bashing. Okay, so she's somewhere on my left. Sorry, I'm just still in low range in case I have to dart in to the bush. Okay, let's get ahead of her. I got her. Let's try and get ahead of her. You know that white fluffy bit on the tail? It's very helpful to spot them in the night as well. She is interested in something. So, okay, there we go. Let's just wait, I'll check.
I left the Masai still in
Kirst, you'd like to know if there's any chemical in their urine that makes it smell like popcorn? Yes, there is. It's called 2AP. For me to remember this. It's called 2AP. But I forgot what the A of the P stands for. Acetyl proper. No, I'm going to have to remember it. But it's 2AP, and they share that chemical with the palm civet, as well as other civets. But the palm civet is the other one that smells particularly like hot buttered popcorn, like a leopard's does. 2-acetopropyl. You know how much it irritates me when I forget something like that. It's because I've gotten too used to saying 2AP, and not saying the full molecule. Bad habits, school students who are watching. Okay, I think, considering the darkness, this is going to be our last segment with her. Just leave her be. She's been followed pretty much the whole afternoon. So we'll watch her for one last time now, and then we will leave her be. Standing by.
Sorry, Trishana, we are at the junction of Zoe and Valentine's and Rebecca's. Do I travel east or west?
Travel east towards Rebecca, so you travel east from that Balanites tree. I'm just off the road.
Copy that, thank you. Maybe if you see my lights, can you just give me an indication?
A-firm, I'll do that if I hear you as well. I can still see the road.
Thank you.
Oh, it seems that even though I wanted to give her a bit of a break, somebody else will follow her. Craig, you'd like to know if leopards ever get stressed? Absolutely. Stress is a mammalian, not just mammalian, but it's one of her very prominent features. Because stress allows you to figure out if you are in danger. It allows you this physiological response. And it's a very, very important thing. Now, there's two types of stress. If you're thinking about emotional stress, that's something that I don't know the answer to, and I can't, or it's difficult to test and experiment on emotional stress. But if you're talking biological stress, absolutely. That I know 100%. And that's because every single cell goes through something called oxidative stress. In fact, that's the mechanism, excuse our pull there, by which you age. The mechanism by which you age, or part of it, is how many free radicals there are in your body, which is a result of oxidative stress. So from that perspective, every single thing that exists that is alive experiences that kind of stress. Excuse me for 1 second. I see your lights. Keep coming. Emotional stress, I'm sure too, but it's not the type of thing that I can measure at all. Stress hormone, cortisol. There's that also, but again, difficult to measure. And now I can't see her anymore. So, I'm going to have to direct these guys in. Hopefully they'll be able to find her because I can't. Come on in to the block and have a look. Okay, I'm gonna have to direct them in, and I've lost visual of Shidudu now. And don't really want to put out my spot. Well, spotlight is not going to be very helpful. It's very dull at the moment. Okay. Thank you, FC. All right, let me do this. If I find her, like I said, I think we've had our time with her. Let's, go look for a chameleon or something.
And I hope Trishala finds that leopard. And I hope we find a leopard as well. We have been driving this road along the bank of the riverbed, and what we're doing is we're checking for the reflection of the light within any animal's eyes at this point. It's too dark for me to see the animal now with the naked eye, so we have to rely on that reflection and have a look and see how the animal moves, where it is, and in this particular section, hopefully it'll be a leopard moving. I think from here we're going to drop into the riverbed and see if maybe there's a chance that the leopard might have decided to move down into the riverbed. I often find that leopards in this area move down to the riverbed at night time, where they'll spend some time. They'll be looking, listening for any sounds. Maybe trying to see where the impalas are moving. If I heard the name correctly, Roofy Girl, I think the question is, do leopards find and eat cubs at some point? On occasions, if it's a male leopard, it might look for the cubs of other females, where if he's not the father, he'll find those cubs, kill them, and on occasions he might feed on them. But in this particular area, every time I've seen a cub that was killed by a male leopard, it was usually left. Now, with the Timbavati riverbed being full of reeds after the rain and from the past year's rains, there's a lot of places for it to hide. And even though it's dark, creatures out on the banks might still actually see the leopard as it crosses the riverbed at this point. Now, where we are just over to our right, there's a pan of water, and there's one particular female leopard in this particular area that she tends to move around that puddle of water often, especially at night time. Maybe just after the day's rest, go have a drink, and then from there do her nightly patrols. Now, not far from where we are is where there's an old farmhouse, and we had reports that last night she was there. I think the name is Cole, and your question, have you ever been charged by an animal? Yes, I have been. On occasions when you do follow tracks and you walk into an area where it's a little bit denser, sometimes you might surprise an animal and then it will come charging at you. But it's not a charge as an attack, it's basically just to tell you to move off, in which case we would immediately move off and give the animal its space where it's comfortable with. Now, there's a lot of game trails through this area. I know some of the animals would have come to drink late afternoon here. And the leopard will sometimes pick up on the scent of some of those animals, follow those game trails and check it carefully towards the areas on the banks where antelopes like the impala might settle in for the night. So we're going to continue and see if we might find the reflection of some eyes up on the bank here.
I have left my leopard. In fact, we did manage to find her again, or she crossed the road, so the other vehicle got a nice view of her. It always makes me feel nice when people come along and they really want to see a leopard and you can help them by guiding them into the sighting. So now a spotlight is out. It's a little dull, but it still works. At least for my mission. But given that it was a little rainy and maybe cold is a strong word, we said it was 26 degrees Celsius. But it was colder, put it that way. So might not be as lucky with chameleons. The wet and dampness is probably something that, let's see this, that they want to avoid. Well, not probably, it is something they want to avoid. Nope. But it's been dry for at least 6 hours now, I think. That's sweet. Sound of the cicadas. Let's take a slow drive through. Listen to the night sounds as I look for our chameleon. I get so excited. Well, I mean, I'm generally an excitable person, but I get excited when the time of day changes. So, like in the morning when there's a time change and we go out and there's half an hour of darkness, or in the evening when there's a half an hour of darkness, I really like that because it changes up what we could see. We could see bush babies, we could see chameleons, we could see civets, porcupine. The environment changes. And you can feel it, and that makes me excited. It's like there's an extra boost at the end of the drive, or at the beginning of the drive. At the beginning of the drive, when we start and it's dark, it works the opposite way. It goes from darkness to light, and then things change in that direction. Malcolm, you'd like to know if any of the animals snore while sleeping. I don't know if what I've heard is considered snoring, but I have heard heavy, snotty-like breathing sounds come from lions and leopards and elephants. But I don't know if it's really snoring or if it's just a snore-like sound. But that being said, I haven't heard it very often. Chameleon, chameleon. They're very good at hiding in plain sight, but I mean, that is what they're actually best at, not just very good at. That is a chameleon. Sometimes I'll drive on a road in one direction and not see a chameleon, and then drive in the other direction and see it, just because of their position. Actually, we can drive faster than this. I think we'll have a better luck around Western Quarantine, because in this area, hello water thickenings, in this area there are a lot, it's a seaplane, so there are a lot of silver cluster leaf, and I've not seen a chameleon in the silver cluster leaf. They like small or short bushes that are green. Silver cluster leaf has this silvery tinge to it, as well as these little hairs on the leaves that I would imagine is quite uncomfortable for a chameleon. So I don't see them on them often, so let's go on to Western Quarantine, where I suspect we will have much better luck. I really like looking for chameleons with you all. I miss it. I miss driving around and having spotlight out, looking for chameleons. And now the weather has permitted us to do so. I had a question there about if my job is dangerous. I just want to get the viewer's name again. Devon? I think it was Devon. You wanted to know if my job is dangerous. Yes, it is. Probably the short answer. But we have to learn... Sorry. We have to learn to be good game rangers, to be good guides, and that means that you learn animal behavior very well. The danger, or the dangerous bit of it, is that if something is going to go wrong, something is going to go completely wrong. So it's not as if, maybe you're walking around camp and you bumped a leopard in the evening and it scratched you. You know, if you bump a leopard in the evening, or you have not had the situational awareness to realize that, or have that feeling that you're being watched or anything like that, if you don't get that, you're done for. You're not going to walk away with a scratch or something like that. So that's what I mean when I say that it's dangerous, because it's very easily can go from 0 to 100. There's a scrub here on my left. I just don't want to spotlight it. Yep, there it is. Scrubby, scrubby. Nope. Can't really see it, even with the IR. All right. It's not ethical to view, or I think so, to view these small little creatures with spotlights, because they're so vulnerable. Apart from that, their eyes adjust to this amount of light, and then they'd have to readjust and then adjust back once the spotlight is moved away from them. And I feel the hurt in their eyes, but then I'm also strange like that. As the light gets less and less, and the animals go through complex chemical reactions in their eyes that produce more rhodopsin, which is what allows light perception to be better instead of color perception. You know, in the short form of rods and cones being color, rods being detect light and shadow, but it's actually a little bit more complicated than that, and I don't want to disturb that of an animal. Okay. I am going to find you a chameleon. It's just not right now. I'll bring you back here in a few minutes when I have one.
So while Trishala's looking for a chameleon, We've also turned our attention to the smaller things at night time, which might be chameleon. This particular area around the riverbed may be African civet or even some genets. And at the moment we haven't had much luck. Now the reason for that is I think because the wind has just picked up. And when that happens, the animals tend to move into the denser bush where they shelter from the wind. It's quite a cool wind. After the rain and the storm we've had this morning, the whole area's cooled down completely. And it's almost like a cold winter's day here in the Lowveld today. And we were hoping that with some luck we might find animals out patrolling territories. But nothing yet. Now, the smaller nocturnal animals are not often seen, and the denser bush is usually where they hide out. That's where creatures like birds go, and they shelter for the night in a dense bush. And then on occasions we might find something like a large spotted genet searching for some of those birds or any other small creature that might be trying to settle in for the night.
Came to me prematurely. I can't see one, but I've turned around so I can see the other side of the bushes with the spotlight. See if that helps. And I'm doing that because I know that I've seen lots of chameleons in this particular area. So I was saying to you that they like short bushes. Like this is a really good chameleon bush. That there, that's a good size. Not too big, almost shrub size. That's a good sized chameleon tree, but that one has too many leaves. Chameleons don't like that many leaves. I like it to be just a little bit more bare. Sophia, did you ask me if I'm scared of the dark with all the animals? No, I really was. When I started, it was a concern. When I started to be out in the bush, that wild animals running around, and little old Tswalu has no claws, no venom, no large canines, but you get used to it, and that's because you learn so much about the environment and the animals, the behavior, and you really do start to develop a bit of a spidey sense. There's times, so at camp, our living arrangement is split in the sense that there are rooms at the top where the kitchen and like the communal areas are, old FC and stuff like that, and then there's new rooms at the bottom, and I'm in one of those rooms now. So sometimes if you're walking between one and the other, you can get a little bit nervous, but that's why you always have a torch with you, and your wits about you. The most dangerous thing I've encountered on that path in the night has been puff adders, many a time. And that's pretty scary because your eyes don't realize what it is at first. They blend in so well. And that can be a little bit scary. But otherwise, I haven't encountered anything else on that pathway. Janice, you'd like to know how quickly reptiles react to a change in temperature. That's an interesting question. I'm not sure. They will basically adopt the ambient temperature, and that means that they can overheat as well as get too cold and not be able to move. They can also overheat. But I'm not sure how quick that change is. That's a really interesting question. It's got me thinking about that. Okay, chameleon. Don't you know I'm back and I need my fix? Our other cam up on site, Gert. He's quite a funny guy. He decided he's going to send me a picture of the evolution of chameleons. I was like, oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much. He's got this little chart for me. I'm like, cool. He sends it to me, and it has a comma, and then a bigger comma, and then a bigger comma, and then like a fetus of a chameleon in a comma, and then a chameleon, and it says comma, 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 chameleon. I laughed. I hope that you did too. Now you go and find that online. And then hopefully I'll have an actual chameleon to supplement that. Alpha, you'd like to know if my vehicle has ever broken down after dark. My vehicle has broken down countless times. Countless times. Some of the time after dark. But we have a team and somebody will come out to save you. But also we're not too bad with cars, luckily. If it's something simple, we can do our normal checks and try and figure out if there's something that we can do before we call other people out. The most memorable breakdown that I've had, it was not in the darkness, but it was following Hukumuri, and I had somehow gotten a stick that looked like a spear, almost like somebody like a gladiator had taken a spear and just thrown it through the front grille and the radiator and the fan, and I just broke it all. It was a first. It was a WildEarth first to get all three in one go. It was also a WildEarth first for my earpiece to be chewed by a hyena, so I'm really racking them up. Although that following Hukumuri one was quite a long time ago. And because the engine was hot and the coolant was spilling all over the place, it started to steam, and then at the time I wasn't very good with cars, and it was when I just started here. And then I thought, oh my goodness, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die from this car's explosion. But then when I opened it up, because I tried to be a little bit brave, then I figured out what was happening. Neil, you'd like to know if night safaris are common in Africa. Yes, if you came to South Africa or Africa and you went on safari, night safaris would be very common. Some safaris will only finish at 8 p.m. And it comes down to the same thing I was speaking about earlier. Things change in the evening. Predators are really, really active. You can get a lot of hunts. It becomes more tense. You can have sightings of bush babies, civets, etc. As well as maybe the possibility of you being very lucky and seeing an aardvark, pangolin. All those things become a possibility in the nighttime. So if your game drive has a bit of the day and the night, it offers a lot of variety to the client. or to the guest. Oh no! I was so enjoying chatting to you all. It's 90 seconds until the end of drive and I haven't found you a chameleon. That probably means I won't get supper. Hello, dung beetle. At least there is a dung beetle, everybody. It looks like it just got a concussion from landing inside my vehicle. Shame, poor thing. We'll find one final sweep around and the last few seconds to listen to the sounds of the bush. Okay, we have 30 seconds. Let's just go forward a little bit. See if this could be the next. Oh, I have some wildebeest. Oh, some buffalo in front of me, but we can't see them very well. Oh well, guys, it's that time. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. Thank you for your questions and your comments, and we'll see you tomorrow morning. Bye for now.